A little book of coincidence in the solar system. The source book for geometry and harmony in the planets. Space will never be the same again. And it's got the planets at the back. It's got some interesting names on them. Mercury, the Moon, Io, Europa, Ganymede, Callisto, Titan, Pluto. Venus draws a beautiful pentagram around Earth every 8 years. Jupiter's 2 largest moons draw a perfect 4-fold flower. The planets grandly play out the slow music of the spheres. Is there a secret structure hidden in the solar system? Packed with great illusions. Packed with great illustrations and serious research from many sources, this internationally best-selling little book by cosmologist John Martineau will instantly retune your cosmological circuits to the extraordinary and primary patterns behind life, the universe, and everything. Stunningly beautiful, genuinely mind-expanding, the 14 times. All recycled astronomy, wooden books. That little picture at the start. Climb up a hill at midday on your birthday every year and look at the sun. Each year, Venus will be 3/8 of the way further around the sun, drawing a perfect octagon over 8 years. So that's what that picture was just at the beginning. To people who have tragically grown up in a world devoid of a magical cosmology. Thanks to the many friends, colleagues, and other nutters who have contributed to this project over the years. Please keep crunching the numbers and sending in the coincidences. Rich patrons may send funds. Note, accuracies in this book are shown as simple percentages. Early visions of an infinite universe of solar systems hinted at repeated structures like galaxies and parallel universes, from Thomas Wright's The Cosmos, 1750. Contents. Introduction. Galactic dust. The solar system. Retrograde motion. The ancient secret of sevens. Geocentric or heliocentric. Kepler's vision. The music of the spheres. Bode's law. The inner planets. Making sense of the pictures. Mercury and Venus's orbits. The kiss of Venus. The perfect beauty of Venus. Mercury and Earth. The alchemical wedding. Calendar magic. Cosmic football. The asteroid belt. The outer planets. Fours. Outer moons. Jupiter's giant seal, the golden clock, octaves out there, galactic geometry, ice halos, the starry signature, appendix of relationships. So we've got the symbols here, sign, moon, Earth, Earth's a cross, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Ceres, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, a useful set of glyphs for the planets drawn by calligrapher Mark Mills, each made from Sun, Moon and Earth and used throughout this book. Introduction. Leg dead. Biological life is now thought to have appeared on this planet not long after its formation. It seems that the bacterial seeds for the process may have flown in on the tail of a comet or meteor. Speculation is again rife about life under the surface of Mars. On Jupiter's icy moon, Europa, and indeed anywhere the sacred substance of liquid water is known to exist. The science of the cosmos has changed immeasurably since the Greek and medieval visions of circles of planetary spheres. But with great cosmic schemes out of fashion, and with dragons and unicorns dismissed, the Earth has become a modern mystery. No modern theory exists to explain the miracle of conscious life, and the numerous cosmic coincidences which surround our planet are swept under the carpet. Ancient answers to such questions invoked liberal acts like music and geometry. This book is not just another pocket guide to our solar system, for it suggests there may be fundamental relationships between space, time, and life which have not yet been understood. These days, we scan the skies listening for intelligent radio signals and looking for another planet a little like our own. In recent years, we have discovered that mellow solar systems like our own are very, very rare indeed. Yet, meanwhile, our closest planetary neighbours are making the most exquisite patterns around us, in space and in time, and no scientist has yet explained why. Is it all just a coincidence? Or do the patterns perhaps explain the scientists? Love it. Galactic dust, the well-tuned universe. There's a lot going on in the universe. We can now see as many stars within our space-time horizon bubble as there are grains of sand on Earth. Our planet and we ourselves are made from reorganized smoky stardust, a fact long taught by ancient cultures. Our new name, Zanoni, means child of the stars. We now know that stardust itself is made simply from fizzballs, highly organised flickering whirlpools of light, long ago squeezed together deep inside stars. We ourselves live in between the little and the large, in a time and a place in the universe where things have condensed, crystallised, built up, and settled down. We still have no evidence as to whether conscious life is rare or common in galaxies. Just how special are we and our Earth? Funnily enough, scientists are currently puzzling over the strange fact that the whole universe seems special. There's exactly enough material in the universe to make it, and the ratios between the fundamental forces seem specifically tuned to produce an amazingly complex, beautiful and enduring universe. Fiddle with any bit of it, even slightly, and you get a universe of black holes, insubstantial fizzballs, or other lifeless setups. Is this design or coincidence? The story of the search for order, pattern and meaning in the cosmos is very old. The planets of our solar system have long been suspected of hiding secret relationships. In antiquity, students of such things pondered the music of the spheres. Today, they experiment with the simple precision of Kepler's, Newton's, and Einstein's laws. Who knows what will come next? We didn't show you the pictures, there isn't any on that side. We did show you that picture, sorry. Here you go. The solar system spirals everywhere. The Fibonacci and the golden ratio. Fine. Shh. Our solar system seems to have condensed from the debris of an earlier version some 5 billion years ago. A sun formed in the centre, and remaining materials were similarly attracted to each other to form small rocky asteroids. Lighter gases were blown out by the solar wind to condense as the 4 gas giants Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus. While in the inner solar system, asteroids grew into planets, the final pieces flying into place with more and more energy as the sizes grew. Many still have molten cores from these collisions. Our solar system takes the form of a stable disk, a design now known to be very rare. The plane of the solar system is tilted at roughly 30 degrees to the plane of the galaxy, so our solar system actually corkscrews its way around the arm of the Milky Way. Was it 30 degrees in the other book? It was degrees. I think we said inches. I think it was 30 degrees. The interconnections. I know, you love it, but can we? Thank you. The plane of the solar system is tilted at roughly 30 degrees to the plane of the galaxy, so our solar system actually corkscrews its way around the arm of the Milky Way. The picture opposite above, after Winder-Delius and Tucker, is schematic of the motions of the four inner planes. Now you know what you're looking at. And it's four inner planets, by the way, not planes. Another way to picture the solar system is by thinking of space-time as a rubber sheet with the sun as a heavy ball and planetary marbles placed on it. Opposite below after Mercury. This is Einstein's model of the way matter curves space-time and helps visualize the force of gravity between masses. If we flick a tiny frictionless pea onto our sheet, it could easily be captured by one of the marbles, or be spun out around a few times and spat out, or settle into a fast-spinning elliptical orbit halfway down any one of the wormholes. Like a planet, the further the pea gets down the funnel, the faster it must circle to stop itself going down the tube. Also, the faster it spins, the heavier it gets, and the slightly slower its clocks runs. We're just smiling now because there's been so many connections and integration, and this is exactly what we feel in the body, and we know what we feel in the body through this. Even though we've got a deaf, blind, dumb internal processing model, it's not done in a conventional way. It's done literally from feeling the body and the way the tongue moves around the mouth, because my mouth and my tongue's been going mad since the seizures almost 4 years ago, and it creates patterns in the mouth which it then transfers to the body, which then transfers the information in the electrochemical signal up to the brain, and then converts that information into brain knowledge to come out. So it's rather than it being through the standard physical senses of sight and sound. Yeah. Oh my God, it's amazing. Wow. But the more of the interconnections and the signs that happen just from little things like the 30 degrees and other stuff. And we've just been playing the music on the harmonium and the guitar strings, and the guitar strings playing it with the fingers does the peripheral nervous system. But we talk about the nerve touch Thai massage, which is plucking the ligaments like a guitar string, which causes the same vibrations on the external body, but you can get that on the internal body, but not using your hands, by singing, and that creates the same method of shaking through the central nervous system on the subtler, finer tubes. The finer tubes are the nasal passageways, and the thicker tubes are the mouth passageways. So yeah, we're just loving it, because as the more of the information connects in the brain, it means it's already made the connections in the body on one level, and then it makes the connections in the brain, and then it makes more connections in the body, which means we're getting our body back, and we can actually start trusting our body. And when we trust our body, we trust ourselves. When we trust ourselves, we can trust others again. And it takes all of that to get to the conventional, typical talk of emotions. Here's the water that we needed from earlier. Wow, these are going to be good ones to watch back. This is the autism. Amazingly beautiful multi-dimensional autism. I don't know if it's the same for all people with autism, but I know they connect with nature and animals better from that Chris Packham program back when we were homeless about a year and a bit before the seizures, and we couldn't drive the van anymore. And then another friend came round and we were talking. This was not long after the seizures, and she was explaining about the rule book of social etiquette and interrelating and communicating with people, and how she hadn't read it. And I was like, what? There's a rule book? No one even told me about that. So yeah, we're gaining understanding. And what happens when one gains understanding? The fear disperses. And when one has control and management over the emotions, to let it all come out, but be in a flow between the different alters, the different energies, whatever language one wants to use. There's a balance and there's a harmony, even if it does seem chaotic to the other, because they don't understand it and they've not witnessed anything like it before, which I can completely understand them coming from that way, because that's the, I don't know, the altar, the aware I that lived like that for so long, but they kept shifting. And I understand the shifting now. I also understand why I've not made any long-term relationships, because the DID would have become apparent before the collective I, the body, whatever one wants to word it, consciousness was ready. But then I did read somewhere the other day that was related. I don't know if it's related to astrology or a number. I can't piece things together too much like that. But it said about it being slow. And I always used to think I was a slow learner, but I understand now I'm a quick learner. There's just a lot of us to get through, and therefore it takes a long time to put it all together into a package. And my mind, I remember I used to have so many negative thoughts and so much, not noise, because it wasn't like sound, but so much stuff going on up there. I never really understood it, and I couldn't always access it. And it just kind of came out as a lot of negative hatred talk towards ourselves inside, really, putting us down. But luckily, the scientist in us, the mathematician, the autistic one, the rational one that takes emotion out of it. Or maybe that's the Aquarius, isn't it? And Aquarians are meant to be cold and take emotion out of it. And we're a sun Aquarius and a moon Aquarius, and your sun is your external world and your moon is your internal world, your receptive nurturing, and the sun's the active masculine. Incredible. And all we have to do is keep learning to be in the moment and use the intuition to keep doing what we're doing. And the more connections and integration and co-conscious we'll have. So it just gets to a point of, wow, that we're way past this point. Okay. Retrograde motion. It's got to be to do with that Mars retrograde. Has to be. It's the power of the subconscious mind. We're reading all these books which make us gain the synchronicities and the common denominator, which interconnects the alters or the brain networks. But there's a lot of the adult, like wise, old generational consciousness, I call it, that doesn't have use to the body, because the body paralyzes in the fight, flight, freeze mode. We're a freezer. But there's always been the ones up here just like going on. And so that's why then when we're more in our body, we get a lot younger and we don't have the diversity in language or vocabulary that the adult ones have, and being able to structure it and put it together depending what age we are. And that's how we're learning about how different kids at different ages, the different ways kids learn. And I think babies only see black and white, etc., for instance. Let me just have a drink. Should we go back to reading the book? Let's hope all that paper that got wet is dried as well. Some good information to come out on there. Oh, that's it. We do have to just share this bit. So there's one of the self-development like workshops, or I don't know, group workshops I went on back in like 2013-14, Women Within, to get used to groups of women and to get used to groups of people. So we started challenging ourselves back in like 2010 later to get used to groups of people and stuff. When we worked behind the bar, that gave us role play of a managerial position, and it was in New Zealand, which were really good times. And so it's like those transferable skills, which is the word we were thinking of the other day. We also get stuff back to front and one way round. But anyway, before we got put in the psych ward, when we hadn't slept, we couldn't eat because we couldn't swallow, we hadn't drunk much, and our autonomic nervous system was dying in the bath, and like we hacked our dreads off, and there was a lot of not normal things, but I mean we were not normal anyway, but like I mean we were laying on the floor with our feet over the World Treasure Chest waiting for one of the YouTube Bitcoiners to come and massage our feet. Paul Zendaya was like in the corner, we'd look at each other but we couldn't touch. But they'd created all these, they were like story packs of the cards around the whole house in different areas. They'd like taken everything out all the rooms that were important and put them in the yoga therapy room, because each room is symbolic to something, and that's how my subconscious, or the younger ones that don't talk, speak to us. So they created all these little puzzles and all these little piles, and if I went to go to one to look at it or pick it up or see what was there because it caught my eye and I wasn't meant to, my body would create, it would go into an altar that would hold a physical body with part of the body that was like falling apart. So I wasn't meant to go there yet, and because pain was always my teacher, my guide. But we're letting go of that belief system, and we've been transcending it and doing all the stuff, so that we're just, what did we get to? I'm sure this is one of the main. Breath. The only thing that the conscious eye has discovered, or collective eyes that work at a time, is that the only thing that hasn't lied to us is our breath. The emotions lie, the feelings lie, the body lies, the gut lies. I mean, one of my yoga teachers, when she was doing something, because we had a one-to-one yoga massage class or one-on-one yoga thing or something, and she goes, interesting, when I do this, it does it backwards. And I just remember getting so excited. It's like, yeah, part of my body connects to part of my brain. It's because my brain's backward as well. If I don't understand it, explain it to me backwards and I'll get it. So anyway, I think we did a little, we did a little video diary this morning, which we do every so often. I'm not sure how often. This is also that when it all gets to that moment of organisation and tracking ourselves back and putting it all together, there'll be some gentle but powerful, I don't know, profound connection. I don't know, doesn't matter really, it's words put into something that we don't need to put words into yet, if ever. And I think yes we will do, because we've got to do our story. Shush, what are you saying? So basically, that was it. We got sidetracked because we did a video diary this morning. We're trying to upload it on a phone, but our phone keeps doing funny things and doesn't always upload them. But yesterday, in the real emotional day, we went over and did all the bit of tidying up and realigning. And we've got all our National Geographic magazines, Therapist, Positive News. I think there's a couple of others in there, Bushman's one, a couple of health magazines. And all of them are stacked up neatly in date order, apart from like 3 or 4. And it's the messages on the magazine. So Mars went retrograde because I heard that off one of the tarot readings and an astrology reading. And then we checked it in our book. So we had the 3 common denominators from 3 different functioning altars. It then came out in the last Moon in Gemini transit reading, which we've watched back quite a few times now. So we're getting our own sound healings back from that and the information going in. And the National Geographic Planet magazine that was out was Red Planet, which is Mars. And I saw that yesterday, and it was literally like 9 p.m. last night, the Mars went retrograde. And the information also that we'd learned was that if there's someone that's very active, and I suppose Mars is action, so they're thinking that, I don't know, is it active in the physical body? Is it active in the mind, the mental body, the emotional body? Is it all of it together? Because it is passion, because it's red, which would mean the emotional body. So yeah, I suppose it's in action in any of those things that we just stated. And then anyway, there's a health magazine that said something, a Positive News that said something, and it was all just so symbolic that when I looked at it, it's like, oh, of course. But of course I can't tell you what all those of courses are, because that's in another network that doesn't function at the same time as we're doing this type of thing. Oh, getting to understand us all so much. So yeah, retrograde motion, running, kissing around. Ancient astronomers who watched the sky from Earth noticed that apart from the sun and moon, there were 5 easily visible points of light which moved across the stars. These are the planets which seem to move around the Earth, roughly following the sun's yearly cycle, the ecliptic, or the stars of the zodiac. If only life was this simple. Watch planets for any length of time, and for far from moving in any simple way, they lurch around like drunken bees, waltzing and whirling. As 2 planets pass or kiss, each appears to the other to retrogress or go backwards against the stars for a certain length of time. And that's kind of what's happened to us since the sieges. But we've got like 4 or 5 planets in retrograde in our natal charts, and I know one of them knows what it means, but yeah, okay. The diagram below shows Mercury's pattern around a tracked sun over a year as seen from Earth after sculpts, and opposite we see Cassini's 18th century sketch of the movements of Jupiter and Saturn as seen from Earth. In ancient times, hugely complex systems of circles and wheels were called into play to try to mimic these planetary motions. Opposite below. That's opposite and below, isn't it? Culminating in the Ptolemaic system of 39 difference and epicycles, used to model the motions of the 7 heavenly bodies over 2,000 years ago. Until 400 years ago, planetary motions were modelled using a different A and an epicycle B. Other tricks refined the system. Here, a kind of crank C, called a movable eccentric, produces an egg-shaped deferent for Mercury's dance. And there are the other 2 pictures. Our spirograph's going to be coming out soon, I think. The secret of the sevens. Planets, metals, and days of the week. We have all these times that go off on the alarms to keep us in check with linear time. All our little strategies. It's like we're not getting misunderstood again and going back to that cycle, whatever. The secret of sevens, planets, metals, and days of the week. A short 400 years ago, the diagrams opposite formed the cornerstone of cosmological, scientific, and magical thought across the Western world, as they had done for many thousands of years. Today, these emblems of the sevenfold system of antiquity appear as quaint reminders of an alchemical cosmology now buried beneath newly discovered planets and physical elements. There are 7 clearly visible wandering heavenly bodies, and they may be arranged around a heptagon in order of their apparent speed against the fixed stars. The moon appears to move fastest, followed by Mercury, Venus, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, top left. So Saturn must be at the top left. Oh no, it's all of them. So it's talking about that top left picture, Mies believes. Planets were assigned to days, still clear in many languages, and the order of the days was given by the heptagram shown top right. In English, older names for the planets or gods were used, thus Wotan's Day, Thor's Day, and Freya's Day, and that's the one it just mentioned, the top right. You can always pause it. Okay, back, pause it. In English, older names for the planets, or gods, were used, thus Wotan's Day, Thor's Days, and Freya's Day. In antiquity, 7 metals were held to correspond with the 7 planets, their compounds giving rise to colour associations. Venus, for example, was associated with greens and blues of copper carbonates. Copper, Venus, EDS. Shh. Students of alchemy would often ponder these relationships as they forged ever more subtle things. Incredibly, the ancient system also gives the modern order by atomic number of these metals. Follow a more open heptagram to give iron 26, copper 29, silver 49, tin 50, gold 79, mercury 80, and lead 82. Lower left after Critchlow and Hinds. That's the lower left. I don't know what all those numbers mean at all, but someone does because they're laughing at it, and that's what I'm laughing at, but I don't know what I'm laughing at. They do. It's a blooming puzzle. The electrical conductivity sequence also appears round the outside, starting with lead. And then you've got the five wanderers. And we love that because the nickname of the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is your left and right vagus nerve. Left is rest and digest, the feminine. Right's the masculine, the fight, flight, freeze. And it's number 10th cranial nerve, which is, and its nickname is the wanderer because it wanders through every organ of the body. And that's that one. Geocentric or heliocentric. Earth or sun at the centre. Oh, I just thought heliocentric meant it was traditional astrology. Oh no, it's not modern or traditional. Okay. The extraordinary Ptolemaic world of epicycles and deference lasted a surprisingly long time. Despite its complexity, it saved appearances and was also said to save souls. Ellipses were in fact studied by early Greek mathematicians such as Apollonius, and as early as 250 BC, Aristarchus of Samos was proposing a system of planets orbiting the sun. However, it was not to be, and for 1,500 years the Earth remained in the centre of the universe, as the Ptolemaic system was handed down from the Greeks to the Arabs, and then back to the West again. Four early systems are shown opposite, after Koestler, and each sphere of each diagram is to be understood as having its own attachment of epicycles and eccentrics. Copernicus, despite in 1543 placing the sun in the centre, top left, remained a devout epicycle man, increasing the number of invisible wheels from the Ptolemaic 39 up to an amazing 48. In the late 16th century, Tycho de Brahe desperately tried to keep the Earth stationary in the centre of the universe, bottom left. Whilst an early Greek model, Heraclides, like a later version by Eriugena, attempted a compromise. During the 1600s, the tide finally turned and people began to forget that planets sometimes move backwards. A modern model of the solar system is shown lower opposite, with the planets, including an asteroid Ceres, orbiting the sun, each planet with an orbital shell. This basic model was first conceived by Johannes Kepler in 1596, and it is to his ideas that we now turn. It's backwards to me. I don't know if that means it's backwards to you or not. I hope not. Apologies if it is. Kepler's visions. Ellipses and nested solids. Kepler noticed three things about planetary orbits. Firstly, that they are ellipses, so that A plus B equals a constant opposite below, with the sun at one focus. Secondly, that the area of space swept out by a planet in a given time is constant. Thirdly, that the period T of a planet relates to R, its semi-major axis, or average orbit, so that T squared over R cubed is a constant throughout the entire solar system. Looking for a geometric or musical solution to the orbits, Kepler observed that 6 heliocentric planets meant 5 intervals. The famous geometric solution he tried was to fit the 5 platonic solids between their spheres, opposite and detailed below. In recent years, far from diminishing Kepler's vision, Einstein's laws actually showed that the tiny space-time effects caused by Mercury's faster, and therefore heavier and time-slowed, motion, when nearer to the Sun, create a precessional rotation of the ellipses over thousands of years, thus reinforcing Kepler's shells. Just one more. The music of the spheres. Planets playing in tune. In ancient times, the 7 musical notes were assigned to the 7 heavenly bodies in various symbolic arrangements. Opposite top. With his accurate data, Kepler now set about precisely calculating these long imagined harmoniae mundi. That Amor Mundi is the Earth soul, so the harmoniae is that the cosmos soul. All these words. He particularly noticed that the ratios between planets' extreme angular velocities were all harmonic intervals, opposite centre after Godwin. More recently, work by Molchanov has shown that the entire solar system can be viewed as a tuned quantum structure, with Jupiter as the conductor of the orchestra. Music and geometry are close bedfellows, and Weizsäcker's theory of the condensation of the planets, opposite after Murchie and Warshall, of the planets throws yet more dappled light onto these elusive orbits. It might appear fanciful were it not for the fact that 2 nested pentagons below left define Mercury's shell, 99.4%. The empty space between Mercury and Venus, 99.2%. Earth and Mars's relative mean orbits, 99.7%. And the space between Mars and Ceres, 99.8%. 3 nested pentagons below right define the empty space between Venus and Mars, 99.6%. And also Ceres and Jupiter's mean orbits, 99.6%. Bode's law and synods, harmonics and rhythmic kisses. It's good, lovely words, aren't they? There have been numerous attempts to discover patterns in the orbits and periods of the planets. A basic logarithmic graph, opposite top, shows clear underlying order after Ovenden and Roy. A famous system is the 1750 Titius and Bode rule to the series 0836, 12, 24, 48, 96, 192 and 384. 4 is added, giving 4, 7, 10, 16, 28, 52, 100, 196 and 388. These numbers fit the planetary orbital radii really quite well, except for Neptune. The formula predicted a missing planet at 28 units between Mars and Jupiter, and on the 1st of January 1801, Piazzi discovered Ceres, the largest of the asteroids in the asteroid belt, in the correct orbit. The length of time it takes a planet to go once around the Sun is known as its period. Sometimes periods occur as simple ratios of each other, a famous example being the 2:5 ratio of Jupiter and Saturn, 99.3%. Uranus, Neptune and tiny Pluto are especially rhythmic and harmonic, displaying a 1:3 ratio of periods. Uranus's and Neptune's adding to produce Pluto's, 99.8%. Like a whirlpool, inner planets orbit the Sun much faster than outer planets, and the table, opposite below, shows the number of days between 2 planets, kisses, passes, or near approaches, properly called synods. A genome We learned that on the J108 with the maths, and the genome's the bit that's left once you take a bit away. So if you've got a square cube and you take a square away from the centre of that, you've left like a corner seat. That's called a genome. Does Earth experience any harmonics? Well, we have two planetary neighbours, Venus, sun side, and Mars, space side. And the figures reveal that we kiss Mars 3 times for every 4 Venus kisses, 98.8%. So an ultra slow 3 to 4 rhythm or a deep musical fourth is being played around us all the time. The inner planets. Did I show you that? Yeah, I did at the start, but I'll show you again quickly. And then the inner planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. Our solar system can be thought of a series of thin rotating rings, each slowly settling down. Divided by an asteroid belt into 2 halves, the inner region sports 4 small rocky planets quickly orbiting the sun, while the outer half has 4 slow, huge gas and ice planets. The sun has still not given up its secrets, mostly hydrogen and helium and an element factory. It is also a giant fluid geometric magnet. 15 million degrees Celsius at its core, 6,000 degrees Celsius at the surface. It blows a particle wind through the entire solar system, and its sunspots and huge solar flares affect electronics on Earth. Mercury is the first planet, mostly solid iron. It is a cratered atmosphereless world, 400 degrees Celsius in the sunshine, minus 170 degrees Celsius in the shade. Venus is second, a cloud-shrouded greenhouse world. On the surface, the temperature is a staggering 480 degrees centigrade, and the carbon dioxide-rich atmosphere is 90 times denser than Earth's. An apple here would be instantly incinerated by the heat, crushed by the atmosphere, and finally dissolved in sulfuric acid rain. Lee Harris was talking about doing a sulfur detox, which I've not heard of before, but we used to eat the ends of matches when we were kids, and the ends of matches are sulfur, aren't they? So I wonder if that's a similar thing of the body knowing what to do again and then having it. Hey, Zendaya. Do you want to come up here, Zen? Are you okay down there? So it's sulfuric acid rain dissolved in. Earth is the 3rd planet, the one with life, and 1 moon. Mars is 4th. A rocky red world just above freezing. Ice caps covered the poles under a thin atmosphere. Riverbeds suggest that Mars may once have had oceans, but they are long gone now. And today, dust storms regularly envelop the planet for days. Huge dead volcanoes, one 3 times larger than Mount Everest, stand witness to a bygone age. Mars has 2 tiny moons. Beyond Mars is the asteroid belt, and beyond that, the giants. Understanding the pictures. They're just figuring out how much to read because I don't want us to read it all, but they're getting excited. So we're going up to the titles and what we want to achieve with our Venus planet, and our language of love and understanding of ourselves is understanding the pictures, for etc. Understanding the pictures, a few tips on things which appear in this book, because this is our psychotherapy, as in doing this process, speaking out loud and doing this is our psychotherapy from the right brain, not the conventional left brain, so it doesn't re-traumatize and isn't talking therapy through the conscious mind, which just makes us go into a massive sulk and want to lock down. Understanding the pictures, a few tips on things which appear in this book. Seen from Earth, day or night, the sun moves slowly to the left again, against the stars, right in the southern hemisphere, taking a year to return the same star. The moon swiftly circles around in the same direction every month, taking 27.3 days to return to a star. Venus and Mercury oscillate around the Sun, coming and going, as the Sun itself slowly trundles around its yearly cycle. Imagine standing on Venus. The Sun moves faster against the stars and Mercury is closer, whirling around the Sun like a fairground waltzer. Every pair of planets creates a single dance. It doesn't matter which of the two you stand on. Your partner's dance around you will be the same. It is a shared experience. Mercury's evolving waltzes with Earth and Venus are shown opposite top. Earth and Mercury roughly kissed 22 times in 7 years, though the ancient Greeks also knew of a more accurate 46-year, 145 synod cycle. Mercury and Venus are beautifully in tune after just 14 kisses. Shown opposite below in the golden ratio, which is a circle and a line down through it, or phi, it is found throughout every pentagram and in the Fibonacci series of numbers shown opposite, which start with 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. Well, why can't, no, it should be 0, 1, 1 if you don't want to include 0, therefore there should be 2 ones. Shh. Which starts with 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, and 13. All numbers we will see in the inner planets. The golden ratio is essentially 0.618, but since 1 divided by itself is 1.618, which is the same as adding 1 to it, and 1.618 times 1.618 equals 2.618, the same as adding 1 more, it often takes all these values. The golden ratio is found throughout organic life forms. It is the signature of life and, as we shall see, highly accurately present in the inner solar system too. Mercury and Venus's orbits, a very simple aide-memoire. There are few things more simple than a circle. With Kepler's discovery of the ellipses and Newton and Einstein setting them spinning, the planetary orbits can be thought of as orbital circles, centered on the Sun, with the eccentricity thickening the circle slightly, or giving the spheres a shell. See Kepler's diagram, page 13. One of the very first things you can do with circles is to put 3 of them together so that they all touch. Amazingly, the orbits of the first 2 planets of the solar systems are hiding in this simple design. If Mercury's mean orbit passes through the centers of the 3 circles, then Venus's encloses the figure, 99.9%. This is a simple trick to remember. You see it all around you all the time. You see it all around you all the time, in the home, in design, art, architecture, and nature. Every time you pick up 3 glasses or push 3 balls together, you create the first 2 planets, circular orbits, to an extraordinary degree of accuracy. There must be a reason for this beautiful fit between the ideal and the manifest, but none is yet known, and these kind of problems are currently out of fashion. Perhaps a bright 21st century scientist will find an answer. Until then, it remains a coincidence. The triangle is one emblem of the musical octave 2 to 1, 2:1. And Mercury performs the delightful solo on this theme, as 1 Mercury day is exactly 2 Mercury years. As 1 Mercury day is exactly 2 Mercury years. That's like saying 1 Earth day is exactly 1 Earth year, isn't it? That just doesn't make sense to us. During which time the planet has spun on its own axes exactly 3 times. Thus, the very first planet plays the very first harmonies and draws one of the very first geometrical shapes. We have started with 1, heard a 2, and seen a 3. The kiss of Venus, our most beautiful relationship. Other than the sun and moon, the brightest point in the sky is Venus, morning and evening star. She is our closest neighbour, kissing us every 584 days as she passes between us and the sun. Each time one of these kisses occurs, the Sun, Venus, and Earth line up 2/5 of a circle further around the starry zodiacal circle. So a pentagram of conjunctions is drawn. Seen from Earth, the Sun moves around the zodiac while Venus whirls around the Sun, drawing an astonishing pattern over exactly 8 years, 99.9%, which is 13 Venusian years, 99.9%. Small loops are made when Venus, in her dazzling kiss, seems briefly to reverse direction against the background stars, shown below as seen from Earth. Notice the Fibonacci numbers we have just met, 5, 8, and 13. The periods of Earth and Venus are also loosely related as 1.618 to 1, 99.6%. This, I'm not sure if that's thigh or pi, I think it's thigh. This thigh-fold nature of Venus, probably 5 because we talk about Fibonacci and that's golden ratio. This thigh-fold nature of Venus and Earth's dance extends to their closest and furthest distances from each other. Opposite, we see Venus's perigee and apogee, precisely divided by 2 pentagrams. 2.618 to 1, 99.9%, 99%. All these diagrams also apply to Venus's experience of Earth. The perfect beauty of Venus, the things they don't teach you at school. With the Sun in the centre, let us look at the orbits of Venus and the Earth. Every couple of days, a line is drawn between the 2 planets, below left. Because Venus orbits faster, she completes a whole circuit in the same time that the Earth completes just over a half circuit, below centre. If we keep watching for exactly 8 years, the pattern opposite emerges, the sun-centered version of the 5-petaled flower on the previous page. The ratio between Earth's outer orbit and Venus's inner orbit, i.e. their home, is intriguingly given by a square below right, 99.9%. Venus rotates extremely slowly on her own axis in the opposite direction to most rotations in the solar system. Her rotation period is precisely 2/3 of an Earth year, a musical fifth. The closely harmonizes with the dance opposite, so that every time Venus and Earth kiss, Venus does so with her same face. So paint a spot on Venus's surface, and every time she lines up with the as seen from Earth, the spot will point back at Earth. Over the 8 Earth years of the 5 kisses, Venus spins on her own axis 12 times in 13 of her years from colostrum, all beautiful musical numbers. So seeing the G tuning forks that we use that help states of meditation and changing the brain wavelength length. Oh, we did say when you get really deep down in it past theta that it goes to gamma, but gamma is the really high one. We meant to say delta. That's in one of the videos that we're correcting ourselves on. Mercury and Earth. Yet more 5s and 8s, but the 5s is about PHIVES. Mercury and Earth's physical sizes are in the same relation as their mean orbits. Various 5-fold overlays are shown opposite, which proportion the orbits and sizes of the 2 planets. The diameter of Mercury's innermost orbit is suggested by the pentagram in the circle, top left, 99.5%, and also happens to be the distance between the mean orbits of the 2 planets, 99.7%. The diagram's bottom right expands on the 3 touching circles of page 21. 8 circles centre on Venus's orbit produce Earth's mean orbit, 99.99%. The 8 years of the 5 kisses, perhaps. Mercury, Venus, and Earth's display a peculiar coincidence. If we work in units of Mercury's orbital radius and period, then Venus's period times 2.618 is Earth's orbital radius squared, 99.8%. Mercury's dance around Earth also produces its synodic year of 115.9 days. Richard Heath recently discovered that this is 2.618 times a musical fifth times a full moon, 99.9%. A musical fifth is 3 to 2. 2.618 is 5 squared, or 1.618 times 1.618, and there is a full moon every 29.53 days. Earth's and Saturn's relative orbits and sizes are given by a 15-pointed star below, which also produce the tilt of the Earth. The alchemical wedding, 3 to 11 all around. From the surface of the Earth, the Sun and Moon appear the same size. According to modern Muggle cosmology, this is just a coincidence, but any good wizard will tell you the balance between these two primary bodies is clear proof of very ancient magic. The size of the moon compared to the Earth is 3 to 11, 99.9%. What this means is that if you draw down the moon to the Earth, then the circle through the centre of the heavenly moon will have a circumference equal to the perimeter of a square enclosing the Earth. The ancients seem to have known about this and hidden it in the definition of the mile, opposite after Michael and Ward. The Earth-Moon proportion is also precisely invoked by our two neighbours, Venus and Mars. Venus shown dancing around Mars below. The closest, farthest, distant ratio that each experiences of the other is incredibly 3 to 11, 99.9%. The Earth and the Moon sit in between them, perfectly echoing this beautiful local spatial ratio. 3 to 11 happens to be 27.3%. And the Moon orbits the Earth every 27.3 days, the same period as the average rotation period of a sunspot. The Sun and Moon do seem very much the unified couple. The Moon, a total solar eclipse, and the Sun as seen from Earth. The sizes of the Moon and the Earth, square, the circle, the dashed square and circle are the same length of string. Miles of Moon and Earth. Radius of Moon is 1,080 miles, which is 3 times 360 miles. Radius of Earth is 3,960 miles, which equals 11 times 360 miles. Diameter of Moon equals 2,160 miles, equal 3 times 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 times 6 miles. Radius of Earth plus radius of Moon equals 5,040 miles, which equals 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 times 6 times 7, which equals 7 times 8 times 9 times 10 miles. Diameter of Earth equals 7,920 miles, which equals 8 times 9 times 10 times 11 miles. There are 5,280 feet in a mile, which equals, brackets, 10 times 11 times 12 times 13, close brackets, minus brackets 9 times 10 times 11 times 12, close brackets. That's what that is all is. And then the last one for now, calendar magic. We want to get on with our calendar, you see, so it's got the word calendar magic and we've been talking about the moon, so we'll be able to enter our moon stuff into the calendar, linking the left brain linear system thinking with the right brain circular system thinking. We've got a bit on that actually to read out. And breathe. Calendar magic, just 3 numbers do the trick. Recent work by Robin Heath has revealed simple geometrical and mathematical tools which suggest order and form within the Sun-Moon-Earth system. Imagine we want to discover the number of full moons in a year, somewhere between 12 and 13. Draw a circle, diameter 13, with a pentagram inside. Its arms will then measure 12.364, the number of full moons in a year, 99.95%. An even more accurate way of doing it is to draw the second Pythagorean triangle, which just happens to be made of 5, 12 and 13. Again, the numbers of the keyboard and of Venus. Dividing the 5 side into its harmonic 2, 3 gives a new length, the square root of 153, 12.369. The number of full moons in a year, 99.999%. The moon seems to beckon us to look further. We all know that 6 circles fit around 1 on a flat surface, 6 and 7. 12 spheres pack perfectly around one in our familiar 3-dimensional space, 12 and 13 again. We seem to be moving up in 6s. Could 18 time spheres fit around 1 in a 4th dimension of time? Incredibly, all of the current major time cycles of the Sun, Moon, Earth system turn out to be accurately defined as simple combinations of the numbers 18, 19 and the golden section. See page 22. The golden section is equivalent in the pentagram, the icosahedron, the dodecahedron, and all living things. The orbits of the 4 inner planets all display its presence. Its values, 0.618, 1, 1.618, and 2.618, added to the magic number 18, produce 18, 18.618, 19, 19.618, and 20.618. Which then multiply together as shown opposite. So we've got the pentagram and the Pythagoras triangle, 2 ancient techniques for finding the number of full moons in a year. That is top 2 there. And the bottom writing, 18 years equals the Saros eclipse cycle. Similar eclipses will occur after 18 years. 18.618 years equals a revolution of the moon's nodes. The moon's nodes are the 2 places where the slightly offset circles of the sun and moon's orbits cross. 19 years equals the Metonic cycle. If there is a full moon on your birthday this year, there will be another one on your birthday in 19 years' time. The eclipse year equals 18.618 times 18.618 days. The eclipse year is the time it takes for the sun to return to the same one of the moon's nodes. It is 18.618 days short of a solar year. There are 19 eclipse years in a Saros. 12 full moons equals 18.618 by 19 days. 12 full moons is the lunar or Islamic year. The solar year and the Mayans, and like Egypt, I think as well. The solar year equals 18.618 and 19.618 days. The solar year is the 365.242 day year we are used to. 13 full moons equals 18.618 and 20.618 days. 13 full moons is another 18.618 days after the solar year. And we're going to leave the rest for another short rest. So next time we'll be going on to the cosmic football. Mars, Earth, and Venus spaced. So yeah, the little book of coincidence. Namaste. Enjoy the sun.